Good morning, this is Mr. McMurray, and we are talking about the pig. This is what will be on your next quiz, which will be the thoracic and heart area. Okay, this picture you should already have labeled, but you have the external nares, which are the nostrils up here at the top. Okay, then you have the pharynx, which is where the mouth and the nasal cavity come together back here at the back of the throat. All right. Then we're going down the voice box, which is the larynx. Okay, the larynx is kind of the key to figuring out where everything else is. And then below it, there's this ringed cartilage tube that goes down to your lungs. That is the trachea. It has cartilage because that helps it open, but it's only on three sides. So it's kind of like this. The back side of it has elastic so that when you swallow and stuff goes down your esophagus, which goes right behind it, if it's real big and it couldn't fit through there, but this allows it to squeeze and let things go by, okay, behind it. And it gives it a little bit of flexibility, but the C-shaped cartilage still holds it open so that you can breathe all the time. If it were collapsed like your esophagus does, then you would not be able to breathe. So that's why it has trachea, but it's a three-sided cartilage thing with a little bit of flexibility at the back so that when you swallow stuff, it can squeeze out of the way and let the food go down behind it. All right. Next one, you have the trachea breaks off into two main passageways called, each one is a bronchus. Together they're called bronchi. All right. Then you have they break into smaller tubes here. These smaller tubes are called bronchioles, which means little bronchi. Fancy that. This one over here is just talking to your lungs. And then finally, here's your diaphragm. Now, we're going to talk about your diaphragm in a little bit. But basically, your diaphragm, when it constricts, it comes straight across here. It gets shorter, pulls down. And when it pulls down, that creates a vacuum in here. And the only way air can get in to fill up the vacuum is through your nose and down through your trachea. So you don't really take a breath. You just pull your diaphragm down, and it sucks air in because of the lower air pressure. Okay, and that's about it. All right, then we up here at the top, toward the cheeks, you have salivary glands. All right, then on the sides of the larynx, here's the larynx here. On the side of it, you have the thymus gland. Thymus gland it tells you what cells are you and which cells are not you, self and not self, so that your white blood cells will know which cells to attack. So when you're young and you don't know that kind of stuff yet, your body's learning, the thymus glands are fairly large. As you get older, they kind of shrivel up because you won't need them after that, because you've learned what cells to attack and what cells not to attack, okay? All right. And then right in the middle, below the larynx and right on top of the trachea there is the thyroid gland. Thyroid gland has a lot to do with your metabolism. About people have a fast metabolism, slow metabolism, and so forth. That's your thyroid gland, okay? Now going on down, there's a few you need to add here if you don't already have these. Here's your heart. On the heart, there's the top parts, the two little sacs here at the top. Those are the atria, or one of them is an atrium, but together we call them atria. That's just plural. All right. Down at the bottom, you have the, the ventricles, which are this part and this part here. The bottom part, these are the big muscular part, the bigger part of the heart, because these are just little receiving sacs. Then they squeeze it down here. This is the part that actually pumps it. The right side over here pumps it to the lungs, and the left side over here pumps it to the whole body. So the ventricles do the pumping. Whoops. Let me go back there real quick. Okay. And then we have the coronary arteries up here on the surface of the heart, and also there's some coronary veins, but we won't worry about that right now. These are the arteries that carry nutrients and blood actually to the heart, because the blood going through the heart doesn't do it any good. It can't pick up any nutrients or oxygen or anything like that from that. All it can do is just pass it through. So it actually has to have blood vessels that carry food and oxygen to it, just like the rest of your body. If they get clogged, then you have a coronary heart attack, and that's because the heart is not getting oxygen and food. Therefore, that part of the heart begins to die. As the heart begins to die, then obviously, eventually, you will die. All right, now this is the heart. We're not going into a lot of detail right now, but we're going to go into a fair amount of detail. All right, just get an idea on how blood flows through it. Okay. So, first of all, let's talk about blood vessels that are coming to and from the heart. Arteries carry blood from the heart. So arteries are always going away from the heart, flowing away from the heart. On the other hand, veins are carrying blood back to the heart. So if a blood vessel is coming back to the heart, it's going to be a vein. If it's leaving the heart and going away, it's going to be a artery. All right. Now, you have to have some kind of blood vessels to connect those then. So you got the arteries carrying it away, and they get smaller and smaller and smaller arteries or arterioles and so forth. But eventually you get to little blood vessels called capillaries. Capillaries are like single red blood cells. The red blood cells, which are very, very tiny, have to line up single file to go through there. Okay, so they're very small, and that's where things actually get in and out because the walls are so thin that oxygen and food can get through, carbon dioxide and waste products can get back in to the blood to get carried away to other places in the body. Okay, and so capillaries are where any exchange of nutrients, oxygen, gases, whatever, happens in the capillaries. The arteries and veins just carry it, but they don't allow stuff to get in and out. Only the capillaries. So everywhere in your body has to have capillaries nearby, or else they would not be able to have stuff get in and out. Okay, nutrients. And so everything in your body has to be fairly close. Your skin, for example, the top layers are getting too far away from the capillaries because they're not actually blood vessels going through your skin, and so, or at least not the top layers. And so that's why your cells tend to die and flake off at the top. Okay, why? Because they're getting too far away from cells that have capillaries. All right, going back. All right, so coming from the body, we're assuming the blood is circulated around the body. Okay, if it's blood from your head, your arms, and shoulders, it's going to come back to the body through the superior top half of your body, vena, vein, cava, just probably big empty, so a big empty vein. Okay, so the big empty vein from the top of your body. Okay, and you're also going to have, of course, blood from the bottom part of your body. So that's going to be, yes, you guessed it, the inferior vena cava, from the bottom half of your body, the big vein that carries blood from there. Now, it would come up and open somewhere in here. So both this one and this one are going to open into this chamber of the heart right here. Now, this is as if this were in your, when you're looking at it, it's like a mirror image. So you need to turn it around. And if it's in your body, this would be the right side. This would be the left side. Okay, just like when you look in a mirror or look at somebody, what's on your right is their left and left. So when you're looking at the paper, it's kind of like you're looking at someone else's. So the directions are opposite of what they would be for you. Okay, all right. So that means this one up here at the top is the right atrium. Okay, which means that it's going to enter this chamber here. So this is, notice the thin wall. It's just there to balloon to kind of catch this blood coming from the bottom part of the body and the top part of the body, and it collects here in the right atrium. So it collects blood coming from the body. Then it goes down through these valves. We'll talk more about those later, but then goes down into the right ventricle. So it's still on the same side. It's the right, but it's at the V shape or the bottom. Remember V shape, the bottom part of the heart there is V shape. So it's the right ventricle. All right, now when the right ventricle contracts, notice it has bigger muscular walls so it can squeeze, and when it squeezes, it sends blood through this blood vessel, which is the pulmonary artery. Okay, artery tells us, one, it's going away from the heart. Two, it's telling us it's pulmonary, so it has to do with the lungs. So we know it's going to the lungs. Okay, so it's going to the lungs, away from the heart. All right, now technically there would be another one that would split off and go the other direction. Go off this way to the other lung, but we're not showing that. Now, since we're talking about baby fetal pigs, it's not getting oxygen from its lungs. It's getting oxygen from its mom, from the placenta, so, and from the umbilical vein bringing blood back from the mother. So there's really no point in all this blood going off over here to the lungs because they don't need it. Now, then a little bit of blood needs to go to the lungs because you got to keep them alive and in tissue. But most of that already has oxygen, so it can go straight up here. It takes a little shortcut through here and goes right back into the aorta going out to the body. So it takes a little shortcut. Now, once you're born, this should hopefully close up. And that will force all your blood to go to your lungs and get oxygen since your lungs are working once you're born. That's why when you're born, they pick you up, slap you on the rear, and make you breathe, take a breath. And from that point on, your lungs are functioning, and that's where you need to get oxygen from. So this will eventually close off, okay? And this is called the ductus, a duct, which is a little pathway, going to the artery or to the aorta, okay? And so it's just a duct going to the artery, and so it allows it to go to the body rather than going to the lungs, okay? But some of the blood goes to the lungs, even in the baby. All right, pulmonary artery takes it to the lungs. It picks up oxygen in the lungs, then it's going to come back through the pulmonary because it has to do with the lungs, and they're coming to the heart, so they are veins, pulmonary veins. Now, there are 2 of them from each side. Okay, so there should be another little hole right here. 2 holes here, and then there should be 2 holes over here where it would be coming from the other lung, and this would come into the left atrium, okay, which is, once again, a thin-walled sac. It just collects the blood like a little balloon. It fills up, and then it pushes the blood down to below it, which is the left ventricle. All right, the left ventricle has even thicker walls than this side because it has to pump blood not just to the lungs, but all the way to your toes and your fingers and the very extremities of your body. So it's going to be a little bit bigger, a little bit more muscular. All right, then it's going to pump it, and it's going to go up through this main artery here, which is leaving the blood, to the aorta. Now, notice there's some little things here. There would be probably about 4 of these. They go up to your head, they go up to your shoulders and upper body, arms, all that kind of stuff. Then this goes around behind it and actually goes down the backbone and becomes what we call the dorsal aorta. We saw it in the pig, the dorsal aorta. And it would just go down the backbone and every so often send out big blood vessels to the kidneys and the stomach and the different organs as it goes down. And eventually it would go down to your thighs and it would split into the femoral artery going down each leg. Okay, and then there would be veins coming back. From the bottom part, you would have eventually dumping into the inferior vena cava, and at the top, you would go into the superior vena cava and would come back to the heart. And so that's just kind of the cycle from the body into the right atrium, to the right ventricle, to the pulmonary artery, to the lungs, back from the pulmonary veins to the left atrium, down to the left ventricle, and then pumped out the aorta to the rest of the body. All right, so that's kind of all of that sort of stuff. For your next quiz, you will need to know these 2 drawings, this drawing here, and the one we had earlier with the chin and the throat area and the heart and lungs of the pig. All right, and you also need all your respiratory notes, which I will include and talk about here in another video. All right, sounds good. Enjoy. Hope life is going well out there.